And South African banks have avoided the banking crisis through rippling through the U.S. and Europe. Bank runs and inflation triggered rate hikes and dried up liquidity in some banks. Now, the governments and banking peers stepped in to assist with billions of dollars, but there are concerns there could be more stress in the banking sector. CGTN's Sumitra Naidu reports.
The recent fall in South Africa's banking index reflected global market sentiment. Billions were wiped off the market in the last week, and most currencies fell sharply.
We have assessed where our banks sit in South Africa. We have looked at the risks. We do follow a risk-based approach to our supervision in terms of what it is that we assess. We do monitor credit risks that banks face. We do assess the exposures and the interest rate risks in the banking book across our banks in South Africa. So at this point in time, we think that our supervision is sufficient enough to pick up the risks.
South Africa's banking sector also escaped the worst of the global financial crisis in 2009. There's been more regulation since then.
A big difference between our banking system and the US, for example, is just the very closed nature of it and the simplicity in a sense. So, you know, a deposit that disappears out of one bank finds its way into another very quickly, and the banks really close ranks through the interbank lending market to ensure that if a bank is caught short on any given day, that deposit is essentially returned.
All our banks have got exposures through the financial system where they've got lending or borrowing lines which are available for them to access based on our currency, from euros, pounds, dollars, yen. They're more exposed to us than us being exposed to them. And hence, we're not going to feel the crisis.
While there's been little exposure overseas, South African banks do have exposure on the rest of the continent.
We've had some of the risks that you're seeing in the US playing out in Ghana. So there, the subsidiaries of Standard Bank and ABSA have certainly been caught with some exposure there. You know, that's a banking market, for example, where the local banks hold quite high proportions of government bonds. You have potentially, you know, the risk of default.
The South African banking industry is the largest on the continent. In 2021, the combined Tier 1 capital of the sector reached over $34 billion US. While there's always a risk, regulators do believe that the overall financial services industry is safe. Sumitra Naidu, CGTN, Johannesburg, South Africa.